They wrote 5-part harmonies. They changed time signatures mid-bar. They even turned medieval chants into prog rock anthems. Now, while other bands chased hits, Gentle Giant were a band that rewrote the rules. This is their untold story of one of the most daring bands you've probably never heard of. Now, there are a few bands in rock history who so completely redefined the musical possibilities of the genre, and yet remained so completely under the radar of mainstream fame. I think Gentle Giant is one of those bands. They were not obscure in the time, at least not entirely. And between 1970 and 1980, Gentle Giant released 11 studio albums. They toured extensively and they built a loyal following across Europe and North America. But if you really ask the average classic rock fan about the band today, chances are you'll get a blank stare. Now, that in itself is astonishing, considering the technical mastery, the harmonic complexity, and the genre-defined audacity that really defined their output. So let's take a deeper look at the rise, brilliance, and eventual quiet disappearance of this fascinating band, and why they still matter today. Now, they were formed in 1970 by the Shulman brothers, Derek, Ray, and Phil. And these guys had already dipped their toes into the pop charts as part of the soul-tinged group Simon Dupree and the Big Sound. They had a modest hit, Kites, in 1967. This hinted at a willingness to experiment. But Gentle Giant would be a complete transformation. From the outset, their mission was simply quite radical. They were to create progressive rock that challenged the intellect without sacrificing soul. Pretty damn easy, eh? They weren't interested in commercial formulas. Instead, their music fused Renaissance counterpoint, Baroque harmonies, jazz improvisation, and real hard rock grit. Their keyboardist, Kerry Menier, he was classically trained at the Royal Academy of Music, and he brought a deep compositional palette, while drummer Martin Smith, who was later replaced by John Weathers, and the guitarist Gary Green really added a dynamic firepower to it. The band's self-titled debut, Gentle Giant, in 1970 was an early blueprint. It was bold, it was dense, and it was textured. It didn't chart, but it made a statement. This wasn't music for the casual FM listener, no. This was music that demanded attention. And by 1971, acquiring the taste, they had developed an aesthetic hardening into something really thrillingly uncompromising. The linear notes on the album even carried this warning: "It is our goal to expand the frontiers of contemporary popular music at the risk of being very unpopular." How's that for a mission statement? Now, this wasn't pretentiousness. It really was the band's manifesto. And from 1971 to 1976, Gentle Giant released a string of albums that remained staggering in their complexity and ambition. Octopus in 1972, 8 tightly wound tracks, each a masterclass in arrangements. The vocal layering on Knots is as close to musical architecture as rock gets. Figures and counterpoint reminiscent of J.S. Bach meet the energy of rock bands firing on all cylinders. In 1973, in a glass house, recorded after Phil Shulman's departure, this album is often cited as the band's most emotionally resonant. The title track is a multi-movement suite built on shifting meters and musical motifs that recur with dazzling variation.
Looking through the window, can you tell me what you see? You're sure you're really seeing what is meant to be a glass of...
In 1974, there was The Power and the Glory, a concept album about corruption and power, and this arrived with both political weight and sonic fury. Listen to So Sincere, if you will. This is a chaotic blend of a tonal piano and unrelenting rhythm.
Sin, so, sin.
And you realise just how fearless this band had become. In 1975, Freehand. Now this was their most commercially successful album and has reached number 48 on the US charts. Tracks like Just the Same struck a balance between complexity and accessibility.
See me, what I am, what I was, what I'll be.
And this was proof that the band could play within the rock idiom without really dumbing anything down. Now, this 6-album run remains one of the most daring in progressive rock history. It really does. Now, while Genesis leaned into theatrical storytelling, and yes, stretched their compositions into cosmic epics, Gentle Giant focused inwards, on the nuts and the bolts of music itself. They were less about spectacle and more about pure construction. Their obscurity is not due to a lack of quality. It's due to a clash within the machine of the industry. They were too complex for radio. Their songs were too short for the jam band circuit and too cerebral for the stadium rock crowd. They had no visual gimmickry, like Peter Gabriel's costumes, and they refused to simplify their sound in a way that would have perhaps guaranteed them some airtime. But critics adored them. Musicians revered them. But the average morphed into a punchier, American-style rock outfit, and they disbanded shortly after. But yet, Gentle Giant never truly vanished. Their fingerprints are everywhere, still today. Musicians like Mike Portney from Dream Theater and Stephen Wilson from Porcupine Tree cite them as major influences. Tool's rhythmic experimentation, Radiohead's structural daring, and even Muse's harmonic layering carries echoes of Gentle Giant's sonic DNA. Now, in the 2000s, there was some renewed interest in progressive rock, and this led to reissues, tribute albums, and a long overdue appreciation. YouTube and the streaming services finally allowed curious listeners to dive into their catalogue. With headphones, time, and no distractions, as Gentle Giant's music really demands. And something remarkable happened. New fans appeared. Not thousands, but enough. Enough to ensure that the band's story, once nearly forgotten, is being retold with reverence. For listeners over the age of, say, 35, especially those who came of the age with the Beatles, Pink Floyd, or King Crimson, then Gentle Giant offers a unique invitation. Go deeper, revisit what music can be when the goal isn't fame, but full. Now, in a time when modern music often chases immediacy, Gentle Giant reminded us of the joy of complexity, patience, and craftsmanship. Their story is not one of failure, but of integrity. They proved that music could be both intellectually demanding and emotionally engaging. That a rock band could sound like a chamber ensemble and still groove. That there is art in structure and freedom in discipline. Now, they were never built for mass appeal. That's a fact. But if you've never heard them before, perhaps start with Freehand or Octopus. Play it loud. Then listen again, because with Gentle Giant, the second listen is always better than the first. And you know what? The third is even better still. Now, I want to hear your stories about this truly unique band. What was your favourite album? Or have you been to see one of their gigs? Let me know in the comments if you will. And if you've enjoyed this video, be sure to hit the like button if you did. That means such a lot. Now, the video I shot here about the band featured some of their must-hear tracks. And that's the video you should watch next. I'll see you over there.